Hello friends, good morning. Am I audible and visible? Yes, hello friends, good morning. Hope I'm audible and visible to all of you. So, in today's short video, we are going to discuss majorly about a detailed analysis of the first 20 questions that frame the part of UPSC Prelims 2026. And these questions were majorly related to history. Hello everyone. Hi, this is Alok Ojha. Welcome to StudyIQ IAS English. Now, precisely speaking, before I begin with the session of today, specifically on the detailed discussion or analysis of the questions that have been asked in UPSC, let me talk about certain different aspects. If you have observed the past year question papers of UPSC, specifically past 5 to 7 years question paper of UPSC, you will come to one important conclusion. And what is that? Modern Indian history has a lot of weightage in comparison to ancient and medieval Indian history. Correct? This was the basic observance of every aspirant. True? Apart from this, if you observe in Prelims 2026, totally out of 21 questions that appeared from the section of history, only 4 questions were related to modern Indian history. So there was divergence of UPSC from its trend specifically. Correct? Initially, they laid a lot of emphasis precisely on modern Indian history. But this year, there was a proper emphasis on what? There was a proper emphasis on ancient Indian history. And precisely, there was no single question from medieval Indian history. So, now the question that crops up in the mind of every aspirant, where should we start our preparation from? What all things that we need to read? We have read the old NCRTs, we have read the new NCRTs, we have followed CCRT, that is Center for Culture Research and Training, precisely for art and culture. We have read the standard books for art and culture. Apart from this, we are also following the current affairs. So here, I would tell you one thing, that modern India, it has become a scoring edge. On the other hand, ancient and medieval Indian history terminologies, they have become the cutoff killers these days. So, apart from whatever sources that you are going through, rather it be ancient Indian history, medieval Indian history, or modern Indian history, in my personal opinion, update your things along with current affairs as well. Because current affairs do plays a very major role. Yes, Nivedita, very good morning. So, suppose if you find any kind of an archaeological findings in the news, update that with the current affairs. Okay, like for example, you have made the short notes of history. Suppose if you are studying about the administration of Cholas. In administration of Cholas, if you have studied about the Kudai Volai system, which is also referred as the electoral process of the Cholas. Correct? Specifically, or suppose if you have read about Vataki Rutal system, and there was a question on Vataki Rutal past year, like 2 to 3 years back. Okay, so Vataki Rutal, it was a practice followed during the Sangam age by the rulers of the southern India. So it was in news. So here you have to update specifically from the news. Is that clear? Yes, Lux, very good morning. So apart from the traditional reading, you also have to go for that. Please do not worry about this, Smitaji. I'll explain everything. We'll go for a detailed analysis, and I'll also talk about like what should be the approach that you need to follow for 2027. Please do not skip the basic books. First disclaimer I'm telling you. Okay. Now, many of the students feel that we have read the NCRT, we have read Tamil Nadu State Board book, but we were not able to answer the questions that cropped up in the examination. Please do not skip the basic books. Rather it be the old NCRT, new NCRT, or themes of Indian history. Secondly, follow standard books. Third important thing, many of the aspirants I have seen, they neglect the boring chapters on administration and its terminologies. Directly or indirectly, there have been questions on the terminologies. Like for example, we are going to see, like there was a statement about Parsu. There was a statement, and in that statement, there was a terminology that was mentioned as Parsu and Srini. Parsu means axe, and Srini means sickle. We have seen that in our ancient Indian history playlist as a part of Vedic civilization. We have seen that terminologies. So please do not ignore the administrative aspects and terminologies. rather it be related to the administration of Mahajanpad, Mauryan administration, Gupta's administration, administration of Satwahan, Chola's administration. In medieval period, administration of Delhi Sultanate, administration of Marathas, administration of the Mughals. Terminology questions have been asked, and they would be in the coming examination, they can ask questions on terminologies. Although the weightage this year of modern Indian history has reduced, but please do not ignore modern Indian history. Correct? So, one more important thing. Now, you have learned all the things. You have learned Indus Valley civilization. You have learned all the aspects of ancient and medieval Indian history. Also try to interpret things now. Now you are updated factually. You are updated conceptually. But you also need to develop that kind of analytical approach after observing this year's paper. Apart from conceptual clarity, we also need to have analytical abilities to interpret, to infer things. Because if you do that, it will 100% help you out in your preparation. So follow these kind of steps, and let's go for a quick discussion of the questions that have been asked in the Prelims 2026. Which one of the following Carnatic music ragas is similar to Rag Bilaval? Okay, Rag Bilaval in Hindustani music. Nat Bhairavi, Kamavardhini, Hanumat Todi, Dhira Shankara, Bharanam. So answer to this question is Dhira. Okay. So although here you have to go in detail reading about what are the notes, what are swaras, what are komal swaras. So you have to go a bit in-depth reading about this. Moving on to the second question. Yes, Lux, it was approximately 1/5 of the question paper was from history, and this was highly unpredictable. So hence we keep on saying UPSC, it's not just about Union Public Service Commission. It is also unpredictable public service commission. Okay. Now, this was a question from modern Indian history, and the question was like, the artificially fixed rupee sterling exchange rate prescribed by the Hilton Young Commission. So first of all, we need to understand one important aspect. We are also going to go for a detailed analysis. Is that clear? Now, Hilton Young Commission. We need to understand UPSC also has a tendency to ask the questions on different commissions as well. So Hilton Young Commission was related to finance. Similarly, also go through all the important Femine commissions. There could be a proper question on Femine commissions. Like there could be a question like Strachey Commission is related to. Anthony MacDonald Commission is related to. John Woodhead Commission is related to. There are different commissions related to education system as well. Okay. So in such a situation, please go through the commissions, please go through the recommendations of the commissions, please go through the important findings of the commission. So there was a commission related to finance which was referred as Hilton Young Commission. And Hilton Young Commission, specifically the question was adopted by the British government for which one of the following reasons? Answer to this question is aiding the flow of remittances from India. Now, let me speak about one of the theories given by Dadabhai Navroji. And the theory was referred as drain of wealth theory. Now, drain of wealth theory was highlighted by Dadabhai Navroji for the very first time in 1896 session of Indian National Congress. So precisely as a part of his book, which was referred as Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. And this session was presided by Rahmatullah Sayani. Specifically, as a part of drain of wealth theory, there is one more important aspect that was being highlighted, which was referred as home charges. And home charges is nothing but one of the forms of drains that was being highlighted. So remittances was also included as a part of home charges. Now, what are remittances? For example, if I'm a British civil servant working in India, I'm getting paid here. So where will my salary be drawn from? It would be drawn from India. After my retirement, where will the pensions come from? It will come from India. Apart from this, if I'm staying in India, I would be sending back some money back at my home. That is nothing but remittances. Perks, privileges, everything, it is included as a part of home charges. Okay. So remittances was also the part of home charges. Hilton Young Commission, its basic purpose was that reduce the number of rupees required to purchase pound sterling, thereby facilitating the remittance to British home charges and help maintain India's creditworthiness in London financial markets. So basic purpose of the Hilton Young Commission was to maintain the creditworthiness of the India's rupee in the London market specifically. So it is related to what? It is related to finance. One more thing, as I've talked about this before approaching this question, you have to focus on all the major commissions as well. Famine Commission, Education Commission, Peasant Commission. Let me give you a small example of Peasant Commission. There was a question this year about Bardoli Satyagraha. But there could have been another question that as a part of Bardoli Satyagraha, Maxwell-Broomfield Commission was also created. So there could be a question, Maxwell-Broomfield Commission is related to. So please do focus on the commission part as well. There were different commissions related to irrigation as well. So please go through all of them. Banot, yes, this year's question paper, I cannot say that the question paper was easy. But I would 100% say that the level of the question paper was from moderate to difficult. It's not just about history. In fact, the questions of polity were also quite philosophical. In fact, there were 2 questions related to ethics. So precisely speaking, the level of the question paper this year was from moderate to difficult. Okay? Yes, Banot, I can understand that. 69 to 72.6 marks. Is there any possibility or eligible in mains? See, the cutoff, in my personal opinion, since the question paper was a bit difficult, the cutoff might decline, but it won't decline drastically. Like last year, the cutoff was around 91, 92. So probably you can expect the cutoff might be around 85, 86 marks, in my personal opinion. Okay. Moving ahead with the next question. Please keep on paying attention properly, because apart from the discussion that we are going through, I'll also talk about what important aspects that needs to be focused upon. Okay. The Pali text contained the first definite reference to the coins such as Kahapana, Nikha, which is also referred as Nishka. Nishka was nothing but the gold coins, Kamsa and Kakanika. So please remember the terminologies. These are the punchmark coins. The literary evidence from the Pali text is corroborated by the archaeological evidence of the punchmark coins from many sites, most of them made of silver. So what does this above statement narrate? Emergence of urban life, transition to money economy. Both the statements are correct. Now there's a Pali text which is referred as Vinay-Pitak. You might have heard about 3 Pitakas as a part of Buddhist literature. All the 3 Pitakas were specifically written down in Pali language. So 3 Pitakas comprises of Vinay-Pitak, Sutta-Pitak and Abhidhamma-Pitak. Vinay-Pitak is also referred as Panchashatak Siddhant because it was composed by more than 500 monks, and majorly it is referred as book on discipline, the rules and regulations that needs to be followed by the monks and nuns. Then comes Sutta-Pitak. These are the different discourses, and Abhidhamma-Pitak, it speaks about the different doctrines of Buddhism. As a part of Vinay-Pitak and Jatak stories, these are the Pali text. Here you can find the mention of the different coins of that era. So that is the one thing that depicts is emergence of urban life. How emergence of urban life it is depicting, or how it is depicting the transition to money economy. Previously, there was a barter system, that is exchange of goods. But with the, arrival of the punchmark coins, there was development of guilds of merchants, also referred as Sethi. And they used these coins as a medium of exchange. Apart from this, there was development or migration of people from the rural to the urban areas. So that led to a rise of urban life. And secondly, there came into prominence transition into money economy from the barter system. So here both the statements are correct. So from here, what can be inferred? You have to throw light on the coinage system of the ancient and medieval period as well. Like the punchmark coins during the time of Mauryan period, the coins of the Kushan Empire, the coins of Satavahan dynasty. I'll give you a very simple example. Like the Satavahan dynasty rulers were the first to issue majority of the lead coins, and they also issued the coins made up of alloy, which is referred as poteen. Then you have to throw light on the coins of the Gupta rulers. What are the depictions? Coins of the Kushan dynasty ruler Kanishka. For example, if you observe the coins of the Kanishka, you can observe there are 2 to 3 different coins of Kanishka. Okay. On one of the coins of Kanishka, you will find the depiction of Kanishka himself. On the second coins, you will find the depiction of Buddha and Bodhisattvas, that is Buddhist iconography. On third coins, you will find the depiction of different Iranian deities, such as Nana, Pharaoh. Pharaoh means fire god. Correct? So there could be a probable question on coins as well. So from this, the answer to this question, although is C, that is both 1 and 2, but we have inferred one thing, that apart from reading about the different dynasties, you also need to throw light on the coinage system as well. So UPSC can ask a question on the coinage system. Is that clear? So apart from going on different aspects, we are also trying to analyze the different trends. Moving ahead. Next one. This is a question from a kind of a temple architecture, and the question goes like, which of the following temples has or have a Nagara style of shikhar? Malligeti Shivalaya Badami, Huchi Malligudi Temple Ayyol, Dashavatar Temple Devgad, Virupaksha Temple Patadakkal Karnataka. Select the correct options here. Now first of all, what is shikhar? Okay. Don't worry, hush, don't worry about this. Just relax and just listen to the discussions. Okay, all your doubts would be clear. Please do not be fearful after this paper that you have to give an attempt in 2027 or 2028. What will happen? Will the trend remain same? We just need to strategize our preparation. That's it. Please do not worry. Okay. Now, specifically speaking about the temple architecture, there are different terminologies. So we need to understand one important aspect. We also need to study temple architecture in depth and detail. Okay. So as a part of temple architecture, there are different terminologies. Like for example, Jagati. Jagati means a raised platform. Mandapam. Mandapam means a passageway. Then comes Vahan. Then comes Antral. And finally comes Garbhagriha. Garbhagriha, it's a place where it is also referred as Sanctum Sanctorum, where the deity is positioned. Correct? Like few years back, there was a question directly from temple architecture. What is Panchayatan? Panchayatan basically means a style of temple architecture. Okay? So you can expect question from temple architecture. So these are the different terminologies associated with temple architecture, such as Jagati, Mandapam, Mahamandapam, Ardhamandapam. Then comes Vahan, Antral, and finally Garbhagriha. This was at the horizontal level. Just go at the vertical level. Just above the Garbhagriha, we have Shikhar. Okay? And precisely, there are two to three important types of temple architecture. Nagara style of architecture, Dravida style of architecture, and Vesara style of architecture. In Nagara style of architecture, if you observe the Shikhar above the Garbhagriha, it is usually curvilinear in shape. One of the finest example of this is Kandariya Mahadev temple, which is located in Khajuraho group of temples, or which is a part of Khajuraho group of temples located in Madhya Pradesh. Correct? So very simple words, as a part of Nagara style of architecture, the Shikhar is curvilinear. On the other hand, in Dravida style of architecture, the Shikhar is referred as what? Viman. And the Viman is not curvilinear, it is pyramidal structure, or it is like a pyramid. So that is a major difference between the Shikhar above the Garbhagriha between the Nagara and Dravida style of architecture. So just remember one thing, as a part of Shikhar, in South India it is referred as Viman. In North India, Shikhar is curvilinear in shape, and in South India, the Shikhar is specifically pyramidal in shape. Example, Meenakshi temple. Example, Mahabalipuram temple, Shore temple, Mahabalipuram. These are the examples of Dravida school of architecture. Correct? Apart from this, in North Indian style of architecture, during the initial phases, you won't observe elaborate gateways. But in South Indian temple architecture, you will observe elaborate gateways which are referred as Gopuram. Okay, so the elaborate gateways in the South Indian temple architecture are referred as Gopuram. Apart from this, just outside the Garbhagriha, in the North Indian style of architecture, you will observe the depiction of Ganga and Yamuna river in human forms. On the other hand, in South Indian style of temple architecture, you will observe the depiction of Dwarpals just outside the Garbhagriha. So these are the basic terminologies. Now the question here is Nagara style Shikhar. So Malligeti Shivalaya located in Karnataka, here you will observe Dravida style of architecture. Majority of the sources suggest that Virupaksha temple, Patatagal, Karnataka, either it is a Dravidian style of architecture or it is a kind of a Vesara style of architecture. Vesara style of architecture, it's a mixture of both Nagara and Dravida style of architecture. Okay. So Virupaksha temple, it might be a either a Vesara style of architecture or Dravida style of architecture. Okay. So precisely speaking, Huchi Malligudi temple, Ayyol, it has a Nagara style shikhar. And secondly, Dashavatar temple, which is dedicated to Lord Vishnu, located in Devgarh, constructed during the time of Gupta dynasty rulers, specifically was a Nagara style shikhar. So answer to this question is 2 and 3. So what did we infer from this question? We have to focus on temple architecture, specifically Nagara style, Dravida style and Vesara style. Apart from this, you also need to focus on what? You also need to focus on the terminologies related to temple architecture. As we have seen it right now, what is Jagati, Antaral, Mandapam, Ardhamandapam, Mahamandapam, Gopuram, Shikhar, Amlak and so on. Is that clear? So in this video, I'm not just discussing about the questions, I'm also discussing about the things that we need to throw light on. Okay? If you have any kind of a doubt, any kind of a query or question, please feel free to ask. And Khush, please do not worry about this. Here, just read the basic books. And apart from this, also update yourself with the current affairs. Also update yourself with the terminologies and so on. Clear? Let's move ahead. Next question. Buddhism and Jainism is again one of the favorite topics of UPSC, and this year as well, there's a question on Buddhism and Jainism. Like many times, there are different questions asked on Jainism, specifically about the Tirthankar. Sometimes there are the questions asked on 9 Tattvas of Jainism or 9 truths of Jainism. This year, the question have been asked on the 4 gatis of Jainism. Okay? 4 gatis. Now, what are the 4 kind of gatis? Among the 4 main forms of existence of life recognized in Jainism, which one of the following is not included? So the 4 gatis here are the heavenly beings, that is the devtas. That is the first one is gods. Second gati they believe is about the narak. Narak means hell. Third gati that they believe is the human forms, which is referred as manushya. And the fourth gati that the Jainism believes is in Tiryancha. Tiryancha means plants and the lower beings. Plants, animals, insects and so on. That is referred as nothing but Tiryancha. And many of the Jain texts do cite that Yaksha, it's a part of Yaksha or demigods, it's a part of Devas itself. So there is no separate fourth gati for Yaksh. Okay, so answer to this question is B. Yaksh is not the part of the 4 gatis of Jainism. Clear? Now, from this question, we can infer about the core philosophy of Jainism. So whenever you are approaching Jainism, what all things that you need to throw light upon? First of all, throw light upon all the major Tirthankars. There are 24 Tirthankars in Jainism. Study about their symbolism. Second important aspect that you need to focus upon is the iconography. Then study about the Shwetambar and Digambar sect. Then study about the important Jain literature. Focus on the 5 cardinal principles. Ashtamangal of Jainism, that is 8 auspicious symbols of Jainism. Then focus on 3 Ratnas of Jainism. Samyak Gyan, Samyak Darshan, Samyak Charit. Apart from this, also you need to focus on the various Jain literature and Jain, councils. Is that clear? Apart from this, there could be an analytical question in the coming years. Why Buddhism flourished outside India more in comparison to Jainism? There could be a probable question on that. Is that clear? So answer to this question is B, Yaksh. Next one. The question is, Hali Salayas painting in the Bagh caves represent a joyous folk dance, Buddha in a meditative pose, depiction of Shiva and Parvati on Kailash, and Samudra Manthan. See, the students here might get confused specifically between the 2 important options. Why two important options? I'll give you a very simple example about this. Like, there are different caves associated with Buddhism. One such cave is Ajanta Caves located in Aurangabad district of Maharashtra, presently which is referred as Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar district. And it is located on the banks of river Vaghura. Now, these caves, that is Ajanta caves, they are completely dedicated to Buddhism. Second important group of caves are Ellora caves, again dedicated to Buddhism. Kanheri caves dedicated to Buddhism. Similarly, Bagh caves, these are located on the banks of river Baghani in Dhar district of Madhya Pradesh. And it was specifically built by, or it was made by a Buddhist monk whose name was Datak. Okay. Specifically, it was built by a Buddhist monk whose name was Datak. Is that clear? And it is a group of 8 to 9 caves. Among them, cave number 4 is quite famous, and the cave number 4 is referred as Rang Mahal. Is that clear? Cave number 4 is referred as Rang Mahal, and the paintings are very lively. So everyone knows about one important aspect, that Bagh caves are related to Buddhism. So majority of you might have marked the answer Buddha in a meditative pose might have been depicted as a part of painting. Okay. But if we go from the part of the cave architecture, you will come to know like prehistoric cave paintings. Okay. Like there are different caves wherein like for example, during the prehistoric paintings, initially the battle scenes have been depicted. Initially the hunting scenes have been depicted. And if you go back to the prehistoric cave paintings, there is also depiction of community dances. So precisely, if you might have read about the Rang Mahal, then and then only you will be able to answer this question. So it's not just about that community dancing has been mentioned in the Bagh caves. Okay, it is also mentioned as a part of prehistoric caves previous to that as well. So answer to this question is a joyous folk dance. Is that clear? Anna Gones, yes, in fact, sometimes like there were many questions. Honestly speaking, there were many such questions where even I was stuck. Correct? I had to go for a detailed reading of that. Okay? Anna Gones ji. Okay. Moving on to the next question. So it's not just that I knew all the questions, I had to go for the detailed reading as well and in-depth analysis. Because this year, there was a bit of divergence of UPSC in the pattern of asking the questions. Moving on to the next part. One more thing, also go for the cave paintings now. Study about, like I was reading one of the, like when I was going through this question, I was reading about one of the caves which is located in Chhattisgarh. Okay, you are welcome, Anna Gonji. Like, I was reading about one of the caves located in Chhattisgarh, and in that cave, a figure, a Chinese man has been depicted sitting on a donkey. Okay. And how do we come to know that probably he might be a Chinese man? Specifically, that we come to know about it because specifically he was being surrounded by few of the dragons that were being painted. So we have inferred that probably he might be a Chinese man sitting on a donkey. Okay. And this has been depicted in one of the caves located in Chhattisgarh. Is that clear? So please do study about the caves from the region of Odisha. Please do study about the caves from the region of Chhattisgarh, because there are many rock paintings of the prehistoric periods, not only in the Bhimbetka caves, but in Jogimat caves located in Odisha. There are different cave paintings located in Chhattisgarh as well. So please go through them as well. So from these questions we have inferred, we cannot ignore the section of cave paintings. Is it clear? Moving ahead. Next, this is a factual one. Consider the following statement related to the use of the place value system in India. Place value system specifically highlights one important thing, that is the numerical or number system. Very simple words. So the question is, or the statements are, the earliest epigraphic use of the place value system in India is found in Mankani plates from Gujarat. This statement is correct. In the 9th century, place value system becomes general in inscriptions over India. Yes, and one of the finest evidence about this comes from Gwalior inscription. Then the place value systems have been found in the Sanskrit inscription in Southeast Asia as early as 7th century AD. This statement is also correct. So what have we inferred from this, what we say, question and answer round? From this question and answer round, we have inferred one important aspect, or from the 7th question, we have to focus on inscriptions as well. And specifically, it's not just about the inscription. Like, I'll give you a very small example. Inscriptions related to Satavahan dynasty rulers. For example, like Nana Ghat inscription. Now, Nana Ghat inscription, it is related to whom? Nana Ghat inscription is related to Satkarni. Satkarni I, who was a Satavahan dynasty ruler. And this inscription was inscribed by the wife of Satkarni, whose name was Naganika. Nasik inscription is related to one of the greatest ruler of the Satavahan dynasty, Gautami Putra Satkarni. Similarly, Junagadh inscription, it is very important. Why? Junagadh is the only first longest inscription in Sanskrit language. And it was inscribed by Rudradaman, one of the Western Kshatrap. He was the ruler of Saka dynasty. Like Sakas, they have 5 branches in India. One such branch was in Western India. And ruler of one such branch of the Western India was Rudradaman. And Junagadh inscription is related to Rudradaman. It is the first longest inscription in Sanskrit. In fact, Rudradaman had made Sanskrit as his court language. Is that clear? Apart from this, Ashoka's rock edicts, you have to go through it. Apart from this, Ashoka's pillar inscription are very important. Then the Allahabad pillar inscription or Allahabad or Prayag Prashasti of Harisen related to Samudragupta is again important. So you have to go through the important inscription. There could be a probable question there. For the first time, where did we get the evidence of Sati, or from which inscription during the time of Gupta rulers we got the evidence of Sati? So it was Iran inscription. So please do not avoid the section of inscription. So we inferred till now, we have to go through certain cave paintings. We have to go through the coinage system. We also need to go through the important inscriptions of that time, apart from the dynasties that we are going through. Is it clear? So we are not just going through the detailed analysis of the question paper. We are also trying to understand the trend that UPSC is trying to go through, and specifically will strategize our preparation accordingly. Clear? Next question. Again, you have to infer things here in this question. Okay. Consider the following statement about the archaeological findings in the Harappan towns. There is a wide occurrence of spindle whorls in the houses, but there is an absence of spinning wheels. Then, weights and measurement scales complete with graduations have been discovered. There are houses built in large part with baked bricks around relatively spacious courtyards with their own wells, bathing platforms, and large rooms. Now, what can be inferred from these three kind of a statement? This is a question that has been asked. Statement 1 suggests that spinning was a laborious activity done at home. Indus Valley civilization, it roughly belongs to 3rd millennium BC or 4th millennium BC, and it was a contemporary civilization to Mesopotamian, Chinese, and Egyptian civilization. All these 4 civilizations are located on the banks of some or the other rivers. Indus Valley civilization is also referred as Harappan civilization because it is Harappa was the first site to be discovered in 1921. Now there are key findings from the region of Harappa, and from these key findings we can infer different things. Like, I'll give you a very simple example. Vanity box have been found from Harappa. Copper scale have been found from Harappa. And what does the finding of the copper scale exemplify, or what does that suggest? To an extent, people might be scientifically aware, or to an extent, people might be aware about mathematics. Correct? Like, there was standardized system of weights and measures which were not only found in Harappa, they were also found in Mohenjo-daro. They were also found at the site of Kot Diji, which is located in present-day Pakistan on the banks of river Indus. So, standardized system of weights and measures were found. Copper scale was found from Harappa. This simply exemplifies one thing, that to an extent people might be aware about mathematics, so they might have scientific knowledge. So second statement goes correct. We have found the evidence of spindle wheel. Spinning might be one of the activities, but spinning wheel evidence have not been found. So spinning might have been done through hand. So it is a laborious activity. This statement is also correct. So statement number 1 and 2 are correct. Now from the third statement, like it is given, third statement suggests the emergence of common property system. If we observed about the Harappan towns were majorly divided into two parts, upper town and middle town. There are certain exceptions like the city of Lothal, it was divided into 6 parts. The city of Dholavira, which is called as Kotada Timba, through which the Tropic of Cancer passes, located in Gujarat, it is divided into 3 parts. But in general, the cities of Indus Valley civilization were majorly divided into 2 parts, upper and lower town, that is upper citadel and lower citadel. If you observe the structure, like there are many houses, like for example, in lower citadel or lower part of the town, the wells are located between the 2 houses. But if you observe as a part of the upper citadel or upper town, in many of the houses, in fact, in majority of the houses, the wells which are made up of burned bricks are located within the courtyard of the house itself. And since the wells are located within the courtyard of the house, it's a private property. It's not a common property. And what is the question here? The third statement suggests the emergence of common property system. So even if you do not know about the bathing platforms, large rooms and so on, but here the question is given wells. And as we have seen in the previous classes as well, that wells are located within the courtyard of the house. So it's a private property, not a common property system. So this statement goes wrong. And so by that inference, statement number 1 and 2 are correct. So from here, what can be analyzed? From this question, we can analyze one important aspect, and that is what? Like whenever you are approaching Indus Valley civilization, apart from the important sites that you are going through, study about the basic typology, study about the great granary, great bath. Apart from this, how was the structure of the cities, agricultural system, animal husbandry, seals of Indus Valley civilization, pottery of Indus Valley civilization, which was highly utilitarian in character. So these are the important aspects that you cannot afford to ignore. Hope so the point is clear. Moving ahead with the next one. This question is from Modern Indian History. And the question goes like, which one of the following statements about the Eka movement and Bardoli Satyagraha is correct? So before approaching this question, we need to understand both these movements are peasant movements, both Eka movement and Bardoli Satyagraha. Now, before understanding Eka movement, let me talk about the Kheda Satyagraha. Kheda and Bardoli Satyagraha both took place in the region of Gujarat. It is believed that as a part of Kheda Satyagraha, it is said that around the region of Kheda, there was a huge famine and many people had lost their lives. As per official record, 17,000 people had lost their lives. In such a situation, what is the ethical responsibility or the moral responsibility of the government? To waive off the taxes. Britishers increased the taxes as a part of Kheda Satyagraha by 23%. So land revenue was enhanced by 23%. Okay. So no revenue campaign was launched under the leadership of Vallabhbhai Patelji. I have used the word Vallabhbhai Patelji, not Sardar Vallabhbhai Patelji. Why? Because during the time of Kheda Satyagraha, Vallabhbhai Patelji was not given the title of Sardar. In fact, he was given the title of Sardar as a part of Bardoli Satyagraha, which took place around 1928. So in Kheda Satyagraha, taxes were increased by 23%. So whatever was the land revenue, apart from the original land revenue, 23% increased taxes were there. As a part of Bardoli Satyagraha, the taxes were increased by 22 to 30%. So land revenue was enhanced. Okay. So like specifically Bardoli Satyagraha was also led by Vallabhbhai Patelji. In fact, Vallabhbhai Patelji was given the title of Sardar by women of Bardoli. The moral support to the movement was being provided by M.K. Gandhi. Okay, as a part of the Bardoli Satyagraha. And Bardoli Satyagraha Patrika was also started by Vallabhbhai Patel to sensitize the masses and the peasants. Okay. So simple words, the major cause of Bardoli and Kheda Satyagraha was land revenue enhancement. Now what is Eka movement? Eka movement, now Bardoli and Kheda Satyagraha both were in Gujarat. Eka movement, it was confined to a very small region of Hardoi, Sitapur and Bahraich. And Eka movement was led by a local leader whose name was Madari Pasi. Okay. Now, there were three important systems at that time: Zamindari system, Rayatwari system, and Mehelwari system. Now, let's focus on the first two systems. Zamindari system. So, as a part of Zamindari system, it is said that Britishers directly did not collected the revenue from the peasants or the cultivators. Britishers had appointed Zamindar. Okay. Now, these Zamindars will collect the revenue from the peasant or the cultivators, keep their commission, and give the revenue to the company. Now, 89% of the revenue went to the Britishers. Correct? And Zamindari system of land revenue is also referred as sunset law. It is also referred as permanent settlement. Why permanent settlement and sunset law? Because for a span of 1 decade, for a span of 10 years, the land revenue would be fixed. For example, if I'm a farmer, I have to pay 100 rupees as a tax to the government. I have earned 150 rupees, I'll pay 100 rupees. Next year, I have earned 200 rupees. What will happen? Again, I have to pay 100 rupees as a tax. Next year, I have earned 20 rupees, but still I have to pay 100 rupees as a tax. Why? Because the tax was fixed. And why it is called a sunset law? Fixed rate and fixed date. On this particular date, we want this much amount of money. This was the responsibility of Zamindar. And if Zamindar was unable to collect the revenue in such a situation, his Zamindari would be transferred to somebody else. That was Zamindari system. Okay. Now, these Zamindars used to exploit the peasants a lot. How? For example, if I'm a peasant, I have earned 150 rupees. Out of 150 rupees, I have to give 100 rupees to the Britishers. That is fixed. Now, what about the rest 50 rupees? Now, Britishers have not decided the proper distribution of the rest of the rupees between the cultivator and the Zamindar. So here, Zamindar used to exploit the peasants. Although the recorded rent is 100 rupees, Zamindar will say the rent is 120 rupees, 130 rupees. So, apart from the recorded rent, Zamindar used to extract more money from the farmers. Zamindars used to extract extra revenue from the farmers, and that became one of the major causes for Eka movement, that is extraction of more revenue. Okay. Now the question is, like specifically option A, the Eka movement was supported and organized by the Congress, while Bardoli Satyagraha was initially independent of Congress. This statement goes wrong. Okay. In fact, if M.K. Gandhi is providing the moral and spiritual support to the Bardoli Satyagraha, automatically there is a support of Congress. Second important aspect, the Eka movement was provided leadership by Talukdars of Awadh, whereas the Bardoli Satyagraha was a movement of the landless laborers. No. Okay. In fact, this movement, specifically the Eka movement, it was led by a peasant referred as Madari Pasi. Then, Bardoli Satyagraha was a campaign against the enhancement of land revenue. Land revenue was enhanced by 22 to 30%. This statement is correct. On the other hand, Eka movement was a protest against the excessive extraction of the rents. We have seen this. So, answer to this question is C. Okay. And the third, last statement, Eka movement was located in Varanasi and Mirzapur. This statement is wrong because Eka movement was focused majorly in the region of Hardoi, Bahraich and Sitapur. Clear? Now, what can be analyzed from this question? Focus on the peasant movements as well. What kind of peasant movements you have to focus upon? Start your peasant movement with indigo agitation of Bengal, and you previously as well, UPSC has asked a question on indigo agitation of Bengal. You can go through the PYQs. Indigo agitation of Bengal, then the Pabna unrest. After that, go through Mopla rebellion, Deccan riots, Bardoli Satyagraha, Kheda Satyagraha, Eka movement, and the other peasant movements and other Kisan Sabha movements at the provincial level as well. Okay. So please go through the peasant movement sections that we have inferred from this question. Moving ahead with the next one. Now this is a doubtful kind of a question. Now specifically, let's see what UPSC goes with the answer for this. Let's understand about this. Consider the following statements about the Rig Vedic period. Irrigation from the wells allowed agriculture to expand away from the flood plains and the strips on the river margins into the present Punjab and Haryana plains, having underground water levels reasonably close to the surface. Okay. Drought animal power was employed to draw up water out of the rivers or the wells. There is evidence of Rig Veda in the use of Ashma Chakra, that is stone pulley wheel, and Ahavav, that is strapped wooden pails to draw up water. This statement is correct. So from here we can infer one thing. We have to also know about the terminologies. Like if you remember, same kind of a terminology has been asked in the previous years related to medieval India, and the terminology was, what is Rahat or what is Araghata? All of them are used for irrigation purposes. So similarly, as a part of Rig Veda, Ashma Chakra, it was used for stone pulley wheel, it was used for irrigation purposes. So this statement goes correct. When this statement goes correct, through the elimination technique, automatically you can eliminate this option. Mention has been made in Rig Veda of the use of implements such as Parshu. We have discussed that in the class as well. Parshu, which is referred as axe, and Srini. Srini means sickle. And both of them are used for agricultural purposes. So this statement also goes correct. Then, there is a history of use of ox even before the Rig Veda for ploughing the land and pulling the carts. Now the question here is ploughing the land. If we study about the Indus Valley civilization, it is said that there were two major sites of Indus Valley civilization which exhibited Proto-Harappan and Harappan cultural phase both. One site was Kalibangan, which is located in Rajasthan, and the second site was Banavali, which is located in Haryana. Okay? And at both these sites, the fields were ploughed before sowing the seeds. So ploughing of the field was one of the activities prior to the Vedic period as well. And that could have aided in what? That could have aided precisely in the agricultural practices. So by these three statements, we come to a conclusion that all these three statements are correct. So 1, 2, 3 is the answer. Now what about the analysis? Focusing here on terminologies. Because in the two statements, you can get terminologies. Ashma Chakra, stone pulley wheel. Then Ava, that is strapped wooden pail. Then Parsu, that is axe. Srini, that is sickle. So you also need to focus on the terminologies. In fact, you also need to understand the Vedic names of the rivers. And this year itself, there was a question on the Vedic names of different rivers. Okay. Moving ahead next. This again, a doubtful one. In the Pleistocene period, either the Yamuna once flowed into the river Indus or Satluj flowed into the river Yamuna, and one major tributary of either had shifted from Ganga to Indus river or vice versa. Which one of the following are the basis of the following assertions? Okay. Nadi Sukt of Rig Veda. First statement. My friends, Rig Veda, it comprises of totally 10 mandals. And Nadi Sukta, it's a part of Mandal 10. So it is the 75th Sukt in Mandal 10. Now Nadi Sukt, yes, it does mention about the various rivers, but it does not mention about the change in the course of the various rivers. Then explorations of Satluj and Yamuna by Robert Bruce Foote. Now who was Robert Bruce Foote? Robert Bruce Foote is referred as father of Indian prehistory. And if you observe about the archaeological excavations of Robert Bruce Foote have usually focused on the prehistoric tools. Correct? Like for example, the Paleolithic tools, specifically the burins, then the flakes, microlith which were found in the different regions. So he has majorly focused on the tools and the different artifacts. He have not focused on the geomorphology of the rivers, first thing. And secondly, majority of the excavations related to Robert Bruce Foote in southern part of India. And the river Yamuna, Satluj, Indus and Ganga are in the northern part of India. So from here or from this statement, we can also infer that second statement is wrong. Now about the third statement. Dolphin, it is an aquatic animal. So like it cannot migrate through help of through the land or something else. So only when there could be change in the shift or change in the course of rivers, dolphins have migrated from one river to the other river. And here the statement goes that one major tributary of either had shifted from Ganga to Indus river or vice versa. So from the third statement, the presence of same species of dolphin in both Indus and Ganga river system suggests this statement. So from this we can infer that probably the third statement might be the answer, because dolphins cannot migrate with the land. Okay, they cannot go through the marshy areas. The only means is to migrate is through water bodies. So specifically, there would be change in the shift of the rivers. So hence the dolphins might have been migrated. So the third statement is supporting the above statement. So from here we have inferred one thing. D is the answer, probably, which might be doubtful. Let's wait for UPSC. What do they suggest? Okay. Next one. Symbols associated with Buddhism. As we have discussed previously itself, Buddhism and Jainism are one of the major and favorite topics of UPSC. What does an empty seat represent in the early Buddhist iconography? So initially, when we had discussed previously, we thought that it was Mahabhinishkraman, but let's understand now what is the answer. Like, there are different sects of Buddhism. One is Hinayan sect, second and one is Mahayana sect. The third Vajrayana sect is an offshoot of Mahayana sect of Buddhism. Okay. So Hinayan sect is referred as lower vehicle of salvation. Mahayana sect is referred as higher vehicle of salvation. Now Hinayan sect, they believed in symbolic worship and they worship different symbols such as lotus, it is associated with the birth of Buddha. Horse, it is associated with the process of renunciation. Like, it is believed that at the age of 29, like Buddha along with his charioteer, he was driving down the town. And four things that he saw drastically changed his life. The first was specifically an old man bent with age. Second was a sick man groaning with pain. Third was specifically a corpse or a dead body. The fourth one was specifically the ascetic or a sannyasi. And he was very much fascinated by the sannyasi. So at the age of 29, he decided to renounce his worldly life. And that process in the history of Buddhism is referred as Mahabhinishkraman. So as per major Buddhist texts, it is said that initially he moved to the jungles on his horse, whose name was Kantak, and his charioteer's name was Channa. And after that, he departed away into the jungles. So the horse basically symbolizes the process of renunciation, the process of leaving the home. That is nothing but Mahabhinishkraman. So specifically, Mahabhinishkraman is nothing but the process of renunciation. Now, after renouncing his home, first of all, he went to a place called as Rajgriha. From there, he went to Vaishali. Here, he met two spiritual teachers, Alara Kalam and Udak. He learned the techniques of meditation from these two spiritual teachers. And then he lived the life of a Parivrajak. Parivrajak means a wanderer. At the age of 35, he reached a place called as Gaya. And he continuously meditated under a peepal tree for the 49 days on the banks of Niranjana or Falgu river. Okay. And after continuously meditating for 49 days, on the 49th day, he attained enlightenment. From here onwards, Siddhartha was referred as Buddha. Buddha means the enlightened one. So specifically, the mediation of Buddha, it is represented by the two things, that is an empty seat and secondly, a peepal tree. Now, why it is referred by the empty seats? Specifically speaking, here the answer has been mentioned. He was in the supreme meditation, that is a dhyan. Apart from this, the seat is left intentionally vacant to emphasize his transcendence beyond the physical form. So, empty seat, it represents what? The meditation of Buddha, because here he was in a mudra which is referred as Dhyan Mudra. And after attaining enlightenment, the mudra that he performed was Bhumi Sparsha Mudra. So previously, there was a question on Bhumi Sparsha Mudra as well in the UPSC Prelims examination. In fact, the question was like, what is the significance of Bhumi Sparsha Mudra? Then he delivered his first sermon at a place called as Sarnath near Varanasi, and that is referred as Dharma Chakra Parivartan, turning the wheel of law. And the mudra that was performed by Buddha here was Dharma Chakra Mudra. And finally, he delivered his sermons till the age of 80. Buddha had delivered his maximum sermons at a place called as Shravasti. And at the age of 80, he died at a place called as Kushinagar or Pava. Now, after his death, his body relics were being distributed among 8 royal families by a Brahmin named as Drona. And a stupa was constructed over his body relics. Okay. So precisely speaking, it is said that like the stupa was constructed. So what does a stupa depict? The death of Buddha. And the death of Buddha in the history of Buddhism is referred as Mahaparinirvana. So answer to this question, my friends, is meditation of Buddha. So empty seat and peepal tree depict the meditation of Buddha. Hope so the points are clear to all of you. Moving ahead. As discussed previously, we have to focus on the terminologies as well. And the question have been asked on the Vedic names of the rivers. Okay. The question is, which of the following pairs of the ancient and modern names of the rivers are correctly matched? Vitast, Chenab, Askini, Jhelum, Parushini, Ravi, Yavavati, that is Byas. My friends, like river Saraswati in the Vedic literature is referred as Naditama, Matetama or Devitama. River Indus is referred as Sindhu. River Byas is referred as Vipas. Then specifically, Chenab is referred as Askini and Vitast is referred as Jhelum. Yes, river Ravi is referred as Parushini. Okay, river Satluj is referred as Sutudri. So here the Vedic names of rivers have also been asked. Apart from this, you also need to focus on the terminologies. So what can we infer from here? Apart from the Vedic names of the rivers, you also need to focus on different terminologies. There could be a probable question. What is Yava? Yava is barley. Akshat, Vrihi or Tandul is rice. Godhum is wheat. Ayas is copper. Krishna or Shamayas is iron. Ikshu is sugarcane. Grit is butter. Masa is pulses. Nishka is gold coin. Nishagriv is gold ornaments. Terminologies. So from Vedic from the Vedic civilization, what do we understand or what do we infer? We have to focus on the terminology. So we cannot afford to skip these terminologies. In the very start of the session itself, I have said, okay, so usually students skip the terminology, they skip the administration, they skip the inscriptions and so on. Yes, I can understand to an extent it might be boring or to an extent it might be rote memorization, but you have to go through it. You cannot afford to mix it. Terminology of the Sangam period are important. What was the taxes referred during the Sangam period? They were referred as Tairave. What were the committees referred during the Chola period? They were referred as Variyam. Okay? And previously as well, the questions have been asked. What is Panvariyam? What is Erivariyam? What is Thotuvariyam? There are questions on this. What is Kudavolai system? It is nothing but the election process of the Cholas. So in very simple, the crux is focus on the terminologies. Is that clear? Next one. Amravati Stupa. Now, it is located in the lower Krishna Valley. In India, it was next only to the Sanchi Stupa in size. Amravati school of sculpture made a lasting impact on the later South Indian sculpture and its products were carried to Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Specifically, statement number 1 and 3 are correct. So, answer for this is B. So, what can we infer from this question? Stupa architecture is very important. As we have seen the terminologies of stupa, temple architecture, what we say, similarly stupa architecture terminologies are important. The word stupa, it finds mention for the very first time in what? In Rig Veda, which means a burial mound. So it is not Buddhist in origin. Please remember this statement. The word stupa is not Buddhist in origin. We find the mention about the stupa for the very first time or a burial mound for the very first time in Rig Vedic text. There are 3 kinds of stupas: Sharirik stup, Paribhogika stup and Updeshika stup. Sharirik stup are those stupas which are constructed over the body relics of Buddha. One of the finest examples is Sanchi stup. Paribhogika stup are those stupas which are constructed over the belongings of Buddha. Like one such example is Kesariya stup, which is made upon the alms bowl of Buddha and it is located in Champaran, Bihar. Updeshika stup, specifically a stup constructed to commemorate the life of Buddha. So these are the 3 kinds of stupas. Also go through the different terminologies related to the stupa architecture, such as what is Vedika, Harmika, Anda, Tabena. Okay, all these are the important terminologies. Chhatra. So terminologies of stupa architecture are important. Important stupas are like, for example, Sanchi stupa, Bharut stup, then Amravati stup, Kesariya stup, Anantapindika stup located in Shravasti, then Ramabhar stupa. Ramabhar stupa is constructed over a place where Buddha had passed away. Okay, it is located in Kushinagar or Pava. Is that clear? Like Kesariya stup, as we have discussed, it is also referred as House of God, Devalaya. So please go through the stupa architecture, important stupas as well. So answer to this question is B, 1 and 3. So architecture part is also important apart from the factual information. Is that clear? Okay, moving on with the next one. My friends, we usually focus on the topics that are relevant to the UPSC. Yes, it is also relevant to UPSC, but we are majorly focusing the topics which are important from the perspective of history. Is that clear? So we are focusing on history right now, and with due respects, not on the perspective of inflation and so on. Okay. Now, which of the following pairs of the king and his dynasty in the early historical Tamilikam are not correctly matched? We have seen this as a part of Sangam text. Okay. First, Sengotuvan. He's a Chera prince. Yes, or a Chera ruler. This is a correct one. Now, precisely speaking, Cheras, they ruled over the region of Kerala. Vanji or Kaur was their capital. Bow and arrow was their symbol. Thondi and Musuri were the important ports of the Cheras. Few years back, there was a question on the ports of the ancient dynasties, specifically the ports of the Sangam age, such as Pompuhar, Muchiri, and so on. So please remember that as well. Okay. So there were two important rulers of the Chera dynasty. One was Udyanjiral. Specifically, he is also referred as Imaya Varambam. Imaya Varambam, he had adopted the title Imaya Varambam. Imaya Varambam basically means what? One who has Himalayas as his boundary. And here it is mentioned that Udyanjiral was a Chola king. No, Udyanjiral was a Chera king. He had assumed the title Imaya Varambam, which basically means one who has Himalayas as his boundaries. Second important ruler was Sengotuvan. Sengotuvan is also referred as Red Chera or Good Chera. Many of the historians do believe that Sengotuvan, he had led an expedition to North India. He had crossed the river Ganges, and from there he had brought the stones. And with the help of these stones, he laid the foundation of a temple dedicated to goddess Kannaki. Okay, so precisely speaking, this was the role of Sengotuvan. Apart from this, for the very first time, an embassy to China was sent from South India during the time of Sengotuvan. Nendu Chelian and Nendu Chezian are the two important rulers associated with the Pandyan dynasty. So this is correct one. So the answer here is only two. This is the incorrectly matched because he was a Chera dynasty ruler. Hope so the point is clear. So rulers are also asked sometimes. So please do what we say study about that in depth and detail. Subhash Chandra Bose ji. Which one of the following factors contributed to the formation of forward bloc by Subhash Chandra Bose? Answer to this question is B, 1, 2 and 4. What are the statements? Let's understand them. Bose failed to win the confidence of M.K. Gandhi. Now, Subhash Chandra Bose ji and M.K. Gandhi had dissenting opinions. How? Let's understand about this. Around 1939, there was initiation of World War II. And when there was initiation of World War II, it is believed that Subhash Chandra Bose ji was of opinion that this is the best time to start a movement in India on a massive scale because Britishers are busy with the World War. On the other hand, M.K. Gandhi believed that this would be completely unethical on the part of India. So from here itself, they developed a dissenting opinion. Apart from this, 1939 Tripuri session of Indian National Congress, Subhash Chandra Bose ji was one of the candidate and his opponent candidate was Pattabi Sitaramaiah. And Pattabi Sitaramaiah was being backed by M.K. Gandhi and he was being defeated by Subhash Chandra Bose. And in fact, M.K. Gandhi had himself said the defeat of Pattabi is more than my defeat. So from here onwards, we can see the differences between the ideological differences between Subhash Chandra Bose and M.K. Gandhi. So first statement is correct. The Congress left was disunited and failed to support Bose. There were different and dissenting opinions within the Congress itself. So there were certain sections who were willing to support Subhash Chandra Bose ji, but due to disunity, they couldn't support him. Again, a correct statement. The communists did not support the Bose in his endeavors. Wrong statement because M.N. Roy himself supported Subhash Chandra Bose ji. And the supporters of M.N. Roy and socialist leaders like Jai Prakash Narayan preferred Congress unity to support Bose. Yes, that is a correct statement. So answer here is 1, 2 and 4. Okay, so the answer to this question is B. Next one. Again, a question from modern Indian history. Consider the following statement regarding the British policy in Awadh immediately after annexation of Awadh in 1856. See, Talukdars, also referred as big zamindar, their role was ended. Okay, and these Talukdars had become so dominant in a particular region that they had their small kind of an army. Apart from this, they also had certain weapons. They also had specifically built the forts. So a new revenue settlement came specifically around 1856, and the role of Talukdars was removed. So a Talukdar was dispossessed of their estates but allowed to retain their arms and forts. No, everything was taken away from the Talukdars. So this statement is wrong. Okay. Then second statement, the summary revenue settlement was made in 1856, assuming that Talukdars were outsiders. Yes. Now Britishers said that we are directly going to collect the revenue from the cultivator. There shouldn't be any kind of a role of Talukdars. British believed in taking revenue directly from the peasants by removing the Talukdars. So statement 2 and 3 are correct. So 17th one, the answer is 2 and 3. A. Next one. 18th, again from modern Indian history. The genesis of political alliances based on community lay in the very nature of the Montego-Chelmsford reforms 1919. Which one of the following statements support the above? Now, before I read the statements, listen to me carefully about Morley Minto reforms and Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Okay. Initially, Britishers were not at all interested in bringing any kind of reforms in India. But after a certain series of events, Britishers came up with Indian Council Act 1909. Like around 1905, Lord Curzon had announced a partition of Bengal on the pretext that Bengal has become too big to be administered by a single viceroy. And against this, Swadeshi movement started in India. Now, to pacify the moderate section, Britishers has come up with Indian Council Act 1909. And as per this act, the Muslim section was given a separate electorate. I repeat, Muslim section was given a separate electorate in 1909. Now, after 1914, there was a series of events that took place in India. That Home Rule League movement, Lucknow merger, Lucknow Pact, Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Rowlatt Act and so on. Now, Britishers again wanted to pacify Indians. So, they had to come up with certain reforms. So, now they came up with Government of India Act 1919, which is also referred as specifically the Montego-Chelmsford reforms. It is the first act to have its own preamble. I repeat, Government of India Act 1919 or Montego-Chelmsford reforms. It is the only act to have its own preamble. Okay. And the opening lines of the preamble goes like gradual introduction of responsible government in India in a step-by-step manner. Okay. Now, as per Government of India Act 1919, the separate electorate that was initially given to the Muslims in 1909 was now extended to the Sikh community and other communities. In which 1919. Now, what is separate electorate? The basic question that crops up in the mind of every aspirant, what is the difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats? Suppose there is a constituency and in that constituency there are 100 members. Out of 100 members, suppose there are 70 Muslims and 30 members belong to the other community. And in this constituency, seats are reserved for Muslims as a part of separate electorate. In simple words, the candidate who is going to contest election compulsorily needs to be a Muslim. Okay. Second important factor as a part of separate electorate. As a part of separate electorate, the voter will also belong to that particular community. The members or the voters of the entire constituency will not vote in separate electorate. For example, if a constituency has been reserved for Muslim section, the candidate would be a Muslim and the voters would be a Muslim. But as a part of reservation of seats, the candidate will be a Muslim, but the voter of the entire constituency can vote. That is reservation of seats. Okay. So as a part of 1909, the question is, reforms retained and extended the principles of separate electorate in 1919. Correct. Separate electorate was there in 1909. Again, it is there in 1919. Separate electorate were supposed to counter Indian nationalism, which was growing stronger. Simple words, separate electorate was a step, specifically as a kind of an antidote to the growing nationalism. That is again a true statement. Deprived classes rallied around the favors inherent in separate classes. My friends, for the very first time, the depressed section of the society demanded for the separate electorate in the Round Table Conferences, which was held in 1930 to 1932 in London. And the demand was being raised by B.R. Ambedkar. And followed by this, Britishers had come up with communal award. So this statement goes wrong because it was not a part of 1919, it was after 1930 as a part of Round Table Conferences. So answer to this question is 1 and 2. So what have we inferred from here? We have inferred that please do focus on 6 to 7 important acts. Regulating Act 1773, Charter Act, Regulating Act 1773, then specifically Pitt's India Act 1784, Charter Act 1793, Charter Act 1813, Charter Act 1833, Charter Act 1853, Government of India Act 1858, Indian Council Act 1861, Indian Council Act 1892, Indian Council Act 1909, also referred as Morley-Minto reforms, then Government of India Act 1919, also referred as Montego-Chelmsford reforms, and Government of India Act 1935. Please do read all of them. You cannot afford to miss any of them because all of them are quite important from the exam perspective. 19th question, a factual one. Pandit Mallikarjun Mansur, the famous classical singer from Karnataka, represented which gharana? So he represented Jaipur Atrauli gharana. Okay. Next question, 20th one. Kshetrapatni. The term, as we have seen, there are many terminologies from Rig Veda. Hence, I have said, please go through terminology section of the Vedic civilization. So the term Kshetrapatni, it finds mention in, so answer to this statement is here B. It finds mention in Atharva Ved. And the last question was from the perspective of current affairs, and the question was, which one of the following statement with regard to moidams built by Thai Home Kingdom and inscribed as a World Heritage Site by UNESCO is or are correct? Answer here is 3 only. They were the burial grounds of the royals and the nobles. Is that clear, friends? So my friends, hope you have understood the explanation. Hope you have understood one important factor, that apart from reading the ancient, medieval and modern Indian history, you have to update yourself from the current affairs. You have to focus on inscription. You have to focus on the coinage system. You also need to focus on the archaeological findings that usually pop up in the news. Simple words, study the basics. Please do not be afraid by the paper that you have seen. It simply means one thing, just you need to change your strategy a bit. Study your basic things, that is ancient, medieval and modern Indian history, from the basic books that you are going through. But apart from this, please keep on updating yourself with whatever you are reading in the news. Is that clear to all of you? And just go for in-depth reading. That's it. Okay. So before I stop my words, my friend, specifically the batch of StudyIQ is starting tomorrow. That is on 27th of May, 2026. Okay. The batch is morning and evening batch. Specifically speaking, it's a morning and evening batch. And the batch is based completely on a SMART model. Like the preparation specifically will initiate with the basics, then we'll move on to the foundation, then we'll move on with the advanced. Apart from the advanced, then we'll move on with the preparation for mains, interview and so on. The batches are corely available in English medium. Corely. All the subjects would be taught to you completely in English medium, rather it be history, geography, polity, economy, science and tech, current affairs, everything in English. And that too in quite depth and detail, in a proper format of a timetable. Live and recorded classes. Suppose if you have missed the live class, you can have an access to the recorded classes. Apart from this, there would be a mentor who would be guiding you throughout your journey for civil services preparation. So, to enroll into these batches, use the code Alok Live that is flashing on your screen. I repeat the code Alok Live. Is that clear, my friends? Smita ji? Surely, Smita ji, sure. Like 100% I'll be going through a particular playlist or a particular series on YouTube. Please do not worry about this. Like I'm planning to come up with a series of different battles and wars. Okay, like there are many students, like they have a confusion, sir, in modern Indian history. We are actually confused about the Anglo-Carnatic War, Anglo-Mysore War, Anglo-Maratha War, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Panipat, Battle of Swali, and so on. So very soon, I'll be coming up with a series of battles, approximately 10 to 11 battles, in quite depth and detail, and with a crystal clear understanding of the concepts in quite depth. Okay, so please do not worry about this. We'll also come up with a class and on that as well. Is that clear, everyone? So, my friends, with this, I'll stop my words for the day. See you guys very soon. Thank you and have a very nice day. Please be confident. Do not worry by seeing the paper if you're aspiring for 2027 and 2028. I would suggest one thing in the last, or I would say one thing in the last. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Jai Hind, my friends.